All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Before we begin, some of you guys may notice that my voice is not the way it usually sounds, and that's because I've been sick for the past couple days, and right now it's really starting to hit. So, if you cannot understand me that well, I do apologize. Um, but like I told some students in class, I know a lot of you guys don't watch the video, you don't listen to it, so you know. But for those of you guys who do, I do appreciate it. Things like that. I'm glad you are listening. And I hope you guys are learning something, um, as opposed to those other people who just skip forward and just write down the notes and think that's it. Uh, I'm glad and hoping that you get a uh, good education from this. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to analyze the efforts of Tsar Alexander II to basically make Russia better. Okay, and then later on, we're talking about Queen Victoria of England. Okay. So here's your warm up picture. Now, if you notice where Russia, the country of Russia would be, there's an animal there. Okay. I'm sure you can figure out, which animal that is. But my question is this: what do you think this artist is trying to say about Russia? Now, if you notice other countries along its borders, Turkey, Austria, Hungary, Germany, they're all doing something to Russia. So look at that. What is this artist trying to say? Okay. Um, so again, look at those countries: Turkey, Germany, Austria, Hungary, you know, and basically right now, what is this artist trying to say about Russia? Okay. So pause the video, write your response because we're moving on in three, two, one. So, at the beginning of the 19th century, Russia was mainly a rural agricultural country ruled by an autocrat. Okay, an autocrat, someone who basically rules everything and does not give a care what you think. They don't want to know. They don't care. What you feel. Like, oh, we're not getting this. They don't care. Okay, it's their way or the highway, and sadly, the highway is their way too. Okay, now Um, thing is, the Tsar, which is the king of Russia, he's given unlimited power because those people believe in this thing called the divine right, which is basically that they believe that their leader, their king, is either related to God or chosen by God. Yeah, and this is actually a thing. People truly believe this. So, of course, the king is going to think, oh, I can do whatever I want. Oh, I'm never wrong because I'm God's cousin, or, God chose me. So God can't be wrong. So I can't be wrong. But as time went on, people were realizing in Russia, like, man, we got things horrible here. The thought of revolution started to pick up mainly because they realized, wow, we're standing in time. We are not progressing. Every country basically around the world is progressing. You know, Britain, France, United States, Germany. Everyone is progressing, getting bigger, powerful. Things like that. Everyone basically had a revolution somewhere or another. Um, and yet Russia is stuck in time. They're still how they were back, 1700 years before this. So they're kind of like, we need to do something. Excuse me. So the Tsar, remember the king, used soldiers, secret police people, repression, and censorship to stop any thoughts or talk about revolution. Like I told the people in class, the secret police was not like police who was undercover. Basically, they would go to a town and go find somebody who's like really dirt poor, who needs money, like desperately needs money, and they would tell them, "Hey, if you hear anything about somebody talking about, oh, we need to unite, we need to have a revolution, come see me and I'll give you money. And if what you say is right, if it's correct, we'll give you more money. But if you just accuse somebody and you're wrong, we're coming after you." So that's what they use. They use citizens to police citizens. They didn't have like actual police do that undercover stuff. No. Now, if you remember from last week, the loss in the Crimean War really hurt Russia to the point where they isolated themselves. They were like ashamed of how bad they got beat. So this guy right here, Alexander the Second, Tsar Alexander II, excuse me, he was like a lot of Russian people. He realized, oh my God, we're stuck in time. We need to be like the French, the British, the Americans, the Germans, you know, Austria Hungary. We need to be like them. We're stuck in time. So he realized one of the worst things that they've done is the serfdom, basically, where there's peasants, who are basically free, but they're slaves, the lords and nobles and things like that. He was like, this is what's wrong. Um, this is what's hurting the economy, our social structure, and our political future. Having this whole thing with the lords and nobles and things like that, we need to get rid of that. So on March 3rd, 1861, he issued the emancipation of all serfs, basically saying you're free. You're completely free. You don't owe any lord or noble and things like that. On top of that, he goes, you guys can now own property and the government's going to help you out. We're going to get to that in a second. And lastly, you could legally marry anyone you wanted. Now, I had some students in class tell me, like, well, couldn't they do that before? No, they would have arranged marriages where you had your parents made a legal agreement for you to marry somebody you probably have never met. And if you didn't marry them, um, your family lost everything they had. You know, I had some students go, "Well, I would get married and then get divorced." You couldn't divorce. That was a big no-no. You know, some students like, "Oh, I'd kill the other person." If you killed them, you're basically setting yourself up to go to jail. So yeah, no. Okay. Now the government, like I said, told the people, "We're going to buy land and we're going to give it to you." Okay. So basically, they looked at the landowners and said, "We need to buy land from you." Well, the landowners were like, "Okay, fine, we'll take your money." But the thing is, they didn't sell the government the good land. They actually sold them the bad land. They kept the good land for themselves and basically said, "Yeah, take this land here. We'll sell it to you." And it went to the peasants, the really bad land. So these poor peasants, they're trying to grow crops on this rocky, uh, field, a field that has like disease, there's diseases in the soil. There's like little bugs and some of that in the soil that eats up the roots from the crops. And if the crop does grow, it's not going to grow very well. So these peasants realize, man, we are in a bad situation, you know, and they figured we're worse off than we were before because at least when we were serfs, the noblemen would take care of us, if things were bad. So now we're by ourselves, we're independent, nobody to take care of us but ourselves. We can't grow food, we have nothing. So, you know, yeah, things were really bad for them. So Alexander realizes he can't make everyone happy. He has one side of his country, the reformer people, who want change in our country or their country, to say, hey, we need more changes. What you're doing, okay, fine, but do more. And you need to do it faster. Like you need to get it done yesterday, type of stuff. So these guys were impatient and they wanted more now. Like actually not now, like 10 minutes ago. The other group, the conservatives, were basically like, see, this is gonna fail. See, thing is, our country is going to get destroyed because not because of some other country invading us or doing something. It's going to be because of our uh, czar, our king. He's destroying our country. And so what happens is a group of radical people actually kill Alexander II. And so his son, the guy you see in that picture right there, that's Alexander III. He took over. And basically, he undid everything his father did. Took back the land from the peasants, gave it back to the landowners, made the serfs, made the people back into serfs. Now back to arranged marriages. Everything that the father did, he undid. There's only one really, really good thing that this guy did, and that was the construction of the Trans Siberian Railroad. If you look at that map on the bottom, you can go from one side of Russia all the way across to the other side. Okay. It would take you some time because Russia's huge. It's a huge, huge country. But you could do it now. Okay. Now, a student did mention this some years ago. How come the railroad didn't go up north? Why is it all that area, uh, you know, why does it go through there? Because that area up above where the railroad line goes, a lot of that, especially the ones really, really far north, that's all ice. That's all snow. So the railroads would not do well in that area because it freeze over. The rails would get too cold, brittle, break, things like that. So yeah, you couldn't do it. Okay. Now that lady you see right there in that picture, that's Queen Victoria. Now, at one point, for the longest time, she had the longest reign in English history. She was queen for 64 years, from 1837 to 1901. She got beat by Queen Elizabeth II. I believe she had like she was queen for 68 years, something like that, almost 70, I believe. So yeah, she has a record now. But before, it was Queen Victoria. Now, Queen Victoria, she was a tough woman. She was not a lady just to, let people walk all over her, things like that. No, she had a lot of pride. She was a tough woman. She reflected the feeling of the people, national pride, proud to be British, proud to be Englishman. Um, Also, people respected her. Like I said, they didn't bow down to her, but they like, hey, you're a tough chick. I give you credit. You know, she had this sense of duty. Like, as the queen, my job is to do this, so I'm gonna do it. And that reflected the age of when she was queen, and that era is known as the Victorian age. So if you ever watch a movie or TV show and they talk about, oh, this building of Victorian era, or this music or painting Victorian era, now you know what they're talking about, what era, what time frame they're looking at. Okay. Now, she was queen for so long. She saw a lot of things from when she first started up until she died. She saw political reform, social change, more people having the right to vote, not just rich white men. It was now all men, up to this point. Um, she saw the railroads, start, like, hey, she saw the first like railroad, like, hey, this is thing called a locomotive, and it takes steam and it makes this engine turn and things like that, and you can move things from one side to the other. By the time she died, railroads were going all through, England. Um, she witnessed the mention of the telephone. Now I know that doesn't seem much to you guys nowadays, but back in the day, to talk to somebody a mile away, that was seen like as impossible. You could write a letter, maybe go on a horse and go see them real quick, but to hear someone's voice instantaneously through this device, groundbreaking, absolutely groundbreaking. Um, she saw the end of that rural life of, you know, no cities, no real big cities, a lot of farm towns, all that stuff went away. And lastly, she was around when, like, the first serial killer was around, which was Jack the Ripper. That was during her time. That was like in 18, I want to say like 1896, 1898, somewhere around there. Uh, but yeah, he was never caught. and that was during her time. So, yep. All right. So here's my question to you: how would you feel if you found out that your parents made a legal agreement for you to marry someone, and if you didn't, your family will lose everything? We're talking everything, everything they own, you own everything in your place. If something you own is at your grandma's place or someone else's place, that's these other people's now. Okay, everything you own gone. Would you go on with it? And remember, no divorces, no, I'm going to kill this person, throw him off a bridge. No, you'd be then go to jail because, again, the spouse is always the first person they look at, you know. And a young lady did say earlier to today, I would run away. Well, they do have bounty hunters, and these people are good. Those people who are bounty hunters, they're good. They can find you. So, yeah. Okay, so what would you do? Would you go on with it? Would you say, heck no? Sorry, mom and dad, but you made this agreement. I didn't. I mean, or would you like, hey, my family sacrificed so much, worked so hard to get to where we're at? Fine, because remember, you don't know how other person is. You don't know if they're the perfect person, okay, or horrible. You have no idea. So it's like a gamble. So what would you do? Okay. So, once you answer this question, make sure your name is on the front page. Um, and that's it. All right. So, hopefully, you learned something new. Hopefully, you enjoyed this. With that being said, guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.